Today we're starting a new franchise with the worst team in the National League, the Colorado Rockies, and in this video, I'm taking them over for 10 seasons to hopefully win them their first World Series. This is going to be a huge challenge because this team has endured 5 losing seasons in a row, and they didn't really do anything in free agency this past offseason, but I really can't blame them for that because every time they've tried to make moves, it has not worked out in their favor because they're stuck with a lot of bad contracts. Looking at this roster, there are not a lot of pieces to build around, but we do have one great one in Nolan Jones, and he's an 88 overall 25-year-old with a potential. We're going to need a superstar like him to help get us some wins because they are absolutely not going to come easy. And I'm curious how he's going to do on his first at-bat of the season as he's facing a 1-1 count, and that was a good pitch to hit, but he did not get any of it. One player I'm really interested in seeing this season is Cal Quantrill, who gave up a single on his first at-bat. And even though he's on a 1-year contract and he's coming off of a pretty tough year in Cleveland, I really hope that he can make a difference in our rotation this season because pitching remains this team's biggest weakness, and we're being tested early against the National League champs. I want to see if Cal can get out of this, but it looks like Carroll's going to score on this ground out. So obviously this team leaves a lot to be desired, but Ryan McMahon just hit a single, and that's at least encouraging, but this is a massive swing and miss. Another thing to add is that I'm going to try to make this rebuild as realistic as possible, as that almost dropped, but 10 years should be plenty of time for our homegrown talent to develop, as one of those players from the Rockies' own system, Brendan Rodgers, just scored our first run. I'm so excited to have 10 years to build up this farm system through the draft because there's already a lot of great players like Dale Amador and Chase Dollander, but I also hope that this season we can see bounce back years from guys like Brendan Rodgers and Chris Bryant, so we can maybe trade them for some more prospects. Cal Quantrill's really settled down after giving up that first run to Corbin Carroll, and this error is going to allow us to get 2 aboard. I'm honestly shocked that we're hanging with the D-backs so far, but this ground out's going to end the inning. And I just realized that Quantrill only has like 73 stamina, so he's definitely starting to lose his command, and Christian Walker just took advantage with the double. All we need is one more out to keep surviving, and at least we're in a pretty good spot here, but that's sharp contact, but Brendan Rodgers just saved us. If Rodgers has a good start to this year, he's definitely someone I could sell high on because he only has 1 year left on his contract, and he's a Gold Glove defender. He could be the type of trade rental we see every single year at the deadline if he keeps playing well, and he couldn't get his second hit here. But then I simmed one play and we gave up a solo shot to Eugenio Suarez, so Cal Quantrill's in real trouble and he's gonna give up a 3-run bomb. It only took half an inning for this game to get completely turned upside down, but at least it's what we were expecting. So even though his first start didn't go the best, I hope that he can turn things around the rest of the year because obviously we could use as many good arms as we could get, and Chris Bryant's not living up to his contract. We scored a few runs to make that slightly less painful, and then we actually went on to split the series. But no matter what, we're gonna have an uphill battle with teams like the Dodgers in our division. We have a long way to go in this rebuild, so obviously I'm not going to show many games, but I want to see if Chris Bryant can start this year strong, and he just popped it up. This is such an important extra innings game if we want to raise our team's confidence, and this one was hit perfectly into the left center gap where Cody Bellinger's not going to be able to get it, so now we have runners at the corners and a chance to take the lead, as Merriweather won't stop throwing me off-speed stuff, so I'm anticipating a fastball any second, and there it is, but it's not going to be deep enough. We wasted the chance to get the sacrifice fly, and now we stranded both of our runners, so I'm definitely a little nervous facing the heart of their order, and even though Tyler Kinley's our best reliever, Seiya Suzuki just singled right over the top of us, and that's going to be the walk-off game-winning run. To my surprise, though, we ended up winning that series, so I'm not really sure what's going on because most of our offense is not playing that great, but we have 5 guys over 900 OPS, and then 3 out of our 5 starters are playing pretty bad. I don't normally show scouting, but I'm definitely going to change that for this rebuild, especially because we have the number 3 overall pick, so it's a very important year to make sure this rebuild starts out on the right foot. It's the beginning of May, and we've fallen all the way down to 4th place in our division, but we're looking to gain some momentum in the NL West by getting back into this game against the Giants, but we just flew out. Now we're dealing with Tyler Rogers' very weird pitching style, and we can't make good contact. And I forgot that the Giants have Tyler and Taylor Rogers, and Taylor is definitely more hittable as Ryan McMahon's going yard. The 430-foot blast just tied this game up, and with just 1 out in the 8th inning, there's plenty of time for us to try to rally and win this game. And Chris Bryant just got a base hit to raise his average to 248, while his OPS is slowly coming back around at 664. However, he's been surprisingly outplayed by left fielder Sean Bouchard, and it would be awesome if he could keep performing at a high level with a 900 OPS season and 5 years before free agency. Regardless though, both players have put us in position to take the lead in this one, and Tovar hit this one past third base to juice the bases. So we're in prime position to make something happen, and that was a pitch to hit. I just have to avoid doing something stupid here, and Montero's going the other way. That one's gonna drop for a 2 RBI single. What a rally this has been, and pending free agent Charlie Blackmon just went up the middle to score another. It's great to see him still producing despite being 37 years old, and that one's not handled cleanly in the outfield, which is gonna score another run. Their bullpen has collapsed, and everyone's taking advantage, and we're back to the man who started this whole rally in Ryan McMahon. I know we have 10 seasons to get through in this one, but that was a very fun game, and I also feel like it gets us a step closer to figuring out what this team's identity is, even though we're in 4th place in the West. I'm continuing to focus on scouting pitchers because obviously it's our biggest need, and the good news is that there should be a lot of really good options available at number 3. We're going through May where we're able to earn a sweep against the Oakland Athletics, but as you can see, we're still fighting to stay out of of the cellar. So obviously I'd love the opportunity to trade a couple of our players for prospects, but I don't think anyone wants Chris Bryant's contract. And even though I talked about selling on Brendan Rodgers at the beginning of the year, I don't think anyone wants to invest in this stat line. This rebuild is different than anyone that I've ever done on this channel because I'm trying to make realistic moves, and Travis Morris is the #1 player on my draft board right now. An arm like that would absolutely change the game for this rebuild, as we're unable to complete a 9th inning rally against the Reds, so we've officially fallen into dead last. This is a huge extra inning game against one of the worst teams in baseball, and we advanced a runner to third before Elias Diaz was able to drive him in. I'm still deciding if we're gonna put Chris Bryant on the trade block, and he's played very well lately, so it's gonna be a tough call. That was a great rally with 2 outs, but the game is not over yet because a single from Fletcher put runners at the corners, and while this one was popped up, it's gonna be more than deep enough to allow the runner to tag. But this might be interesting because Nolan Jones has an absolute cannon as this throw's coming in hot to the plate, and it's gonna be close, but he's called safe. That would have been an insane way to end this game, but instead it's the 12th inning, and I'm just hoping that we can recapture some of that magic from last inning, as this is an absolute rocket into the left center gap, and there's no question that's gonna score our runner from second. Our offenses looked great, and 37-year-old Charlie Blackmon just hit another RBI double, this time into the right center gap, which was an absolute beauty. So now we have a very good lead, and Nolan Jones just hit a no-doubter into right field that is no doubt gonna secure this win. There's no doubt in my mind that Nolan Jones is the centerpiece of this rebuild, but then there's also a lot of very interesting pieces who we're kind of just waiting and seeing on, especially in Brenton Doyle, who's hitting 172 right now, but probably has the best defensive stats I've ever seen. Our top prospects, Adele Amador and Chase Dollander, are also making really good progress, and we've already seen Ezekiel Tovar make some good plays this season, and he's only 22 years old with B potential. However, the MLB draft is here, and this is the perfect time for us to load up on prospects, and the good thing for us is that this is the perfect draft to need good starting pitching, but I think the exact opposite can be said for position players because there is really not much to work with. We're picking at number 3 overall, and this is a no-brainer for me because our #1 player on the whole board, Travis Morris, is still here, and I'm gonna take him. He's the only guy that's sure to come in with high potential and high overall, but honestly, there's a ton of pitchers still available, so I might target one with our next selection, as we're officially in CB round A, and we're definitely getting one of our top targets. This board could not have fallen any better because we're in position to take Kyle Carlberg, who is my #2 overall player. We've attacked our biggest weakness by getting 2 ace caliber players, and honestly, I'm gonna try to do it again because Bobby Turley's here, and he's definitely more of a project than the last 2 guys that we picked, but he still has 91 to 96 potential, so I'm gonna take him. Not a lot of people know that discovered prospects tend to last later in the draft, but as you can see, we're gonna sim ahead, and Arturo is still here, so we're taking him. This is our last game before the All-Star break, and we came up empty with the bases loaded, so we're trailing to the Mets in the 7th inning as we're looking to end the first half strong, but that was a robbery. Our bullpen has actually given us a great chance to compete in this one, but we are not capitalizing, so now we have to face fireball throwing Edwin Diaz, and that's not gonna be easy, as this is our last chance, and I really thought that was gonna go lower. We're 39 and 58 at the break, and now I'm looking at the All-Star roster where Nolan Jones came in 5th place, but the real surprise in all of this is that Yerman Marquez has been absolutely dominant this season and became our lone All-Star representative. The tough part about having an All-Star level season on a rebuilding team is that you're immediately getting added to the trade block, and this will become our first move of the video as we're trading him for the Reds' 9th best prospect, Austin Hendrick, and we're also adding a bullpen arm in Andy Fisher. I feel like that's a pretty fair return for an All-Star pitcher that's gonna slide right into the rotation, while the centerpiece of the return for us is this very well-rounded corner outfield prospect. Cal Quantrill may not have played well with us, but the Guardians are interested in a reunion with them, and they initially offered me David Fry, but obviously that's unrealistic, so we're gonna throw in Gabriel Rodriguez. However, I'm about to make the biggest move of the entire video so far to get rid of this Kyle Freeland contract, and he's actually having a pretty decent year, so it's time to cash in. And while the Padres are very interested, there's no way that they're taking on that contract alone, so I think the only way we're gonna be able to make this work is by throwing in a good young player like Sean Beauchard, who's had a good year, so we're giving up 2 players they could definitely use to make a playoff push, so in return, they're gonna give us Robbie Snelling. We're definitely the worst team in baseball if we weren't before, and Nolan Jones is at least going yard in the first game after the trade deadline, so even though we hit the reset button on our entire team, I actually feel better about our future, and Ryan McMahon just made it back-to-back home runs. It's funny that we're dominating the Angels in our first game after trading 3 of our starting pitchers, but I have a strong gut feeling we're gonna start seeing the negative side effects, because as I'm looking through our rotation, I realized that our ace is only a 70 overall. It's important to note that that's only 5 overall points lower than our previous ace, but he was an all-star, but maybe this rotation could be what we need to get the #1 overall pick, as we actually turned a double play to get out of this one. One guy that we didn't trade this year is Brendan Rodgers, and that's because he's not having a very good season, but thankfully I did see that he has another year of arbitration after that, as Diaz can't get this one to drop. However, to my surprise, our new 5-starter Antonio Senzatella is keeping us in this one, and we got runners at the corners, so even though we're all expecting us not to have a good end to the year, it's really cool to see us gain some confidence by scoring runs against the Angels, and here's another one. All we have to do is hold on for a little bit longer, and Anthony Rendon blooped this one the other way. It's gonna get down for an easy single, and I'm definitely nervous facing Mike Trout. That slider is not where it was supposed to be, and that's gonna going to be an easy 2-run nuke. It's the 9th inning where I'm begging us to hold on because we are 2 outs away from closing this one out. This would be a great one to win to start August, and it looks like we're going to close it out. We survived 3-2. Also, since it's August, we can finally see our draft ratings, and we struck absolute gold with our first 3 picks. And then at the very bottom, we grabbed a 70 overall, 84 potential pitcher, along with another 85 potential. And because this was an awful draft for position players, I'll take what we got in Rico Chavez and Rob Castro. However, Travis Morris was the reason we could trade our entire pitching staff because he's only 23 years old and could join the rotation next year. Obviously, we were going to struggle for most of the month of August, but we didn't do as bad as I thought. So honestly, I'm feeling pretty good as we simulate to the end of the year. Our 60 wins put us dead last in the National League, but going over to the American League, it looks like we have some competition because the White Sox and the A's were both worse than us. Surprisingly, the Minnesota Twins beat the Dodgers in the World Series, but neither MVP award ended up being a big surprise. And I can't believe the Dodgers lost the World Series because they had 2 Cy Young finalists. We have 3 free agents, but I just can't justify bringing back Charlie Blackmon, who's now a 57 overall. But even though he cooled off at the end of the year, I didn't realize that Elias Diaz made the All-Star game last season and even won the MVP. So for $3.1 million at a position of need, I think I can bring him back for 1 more year. Obviously, we're not going to be able to bring in any big free agents like Juan Soto or Corbin Burns, but we definitely need to make some moves to improve our rotation because I'm not starting any of the rookies or Chase Dollander at the MLB level. We're not necessarily looking for a long-term solution since we have so many prospects waiting to come up, but someone like Walker Buehler could be a perfect bridge player for 4 years plus an option. Going further down the list though, Anthony Desclafani's here, and I'm going to bring him in on a 1-year deal because even though he's 34 years old, he's coming off of the best year of his entire career. We could also use another outfielder while Brenton Doyle's still developing, and there's obviously not much to choose from outside of the top guys, but I do really like Alex Verdugo. And looking at Tyler O'Neill, he put up a 744 OPS last year, but I really think he can turn things around. I really think the same can be said for Francisco Mejia, so I'm going to give him a 3-year deal. Then Edmundo Sosa and Edward Olivares didn't get arbitration offers, so I'm going to hop on that because they could be excellent platoon options for us. Unfortunately, the draft lottery did not go our way this year as we fell to spot number 7, and the Royals somehow got the number 1 pick. I was looking forward to another top draft pick, but it doesn't really matter because we have 11 top 100 prospects, and I'm really excited for season 2 because our team looks a lot better, and the game agrees, ranking us as the 26th best team. It's opening day in the 2nd season of our Rockies franchise, and even though we're still rebuilding, I'm expecting a huge leap forward because we made some really solid budget signings in free agency, and one of those players just drove in 2 runs on Ohtani. Our biggest addition was former Dodger Walker Buehler, who's now our ace and is dealing against his former team, so I can't believe we're on pace to start our year with a win over the World Series runner-ups, but their offense could wake up at any time, so we could use a run, and this is a double play. We're relying on Walker Buehler to deliver against the top of this lineup, and he's actually going to manage, and he's really putting on a show in his Rockies debut against his former team, and Ezequiel Tovar smacked a double, so we're once again in position to score another run. Souza hits this one the other way, but it's gonna get robbed, and that's unfortunate, but maybe new leadoff hitter Tyler O'Neill can score him, and he doubles into the gap himself. This is an absolute rainbow that's gonna score Tovar. Signing O'Neill was our biggest risk of the offseason, but I have faith that it's gonna pay off, and thanks to him, there's 1 out for Brendan Rodgers, who's faced with a full count, and he's gonna walk. This would be a great time for Nolan Jones to get his first hit of the season, and he's going the other way into the gap with this one that's gonna score O'Neill. This has been an unexpected offensive explosion, and Ryan McMahon's gonna add on to this one, driving it deep into right field. That's gonna go over everyone's head and clear the bases. I know it's only the first game of the year, but I'm getting very excited about this team as even Chris Bryant's getting in on the fun with an RBI. That was the best possible way to go into the new year, and I think we need to give a ton of credit to Walker Buehler for putting up 7 scoreless innings. It's only season 2, but it really feels like this team has taken that next step forward as we just turned a double play in a tie game in the 9th. So now we're looking to walk this one off, and Tyler O'Neill only continues to have a hot start to this year. We've got 2 runners aboard for Brendan Rodgers, who smoked this one back at Loaisaga, and we've got a great chance to win this game, especially because our best player, Nolan Jones, is up, and he smoked this one into right field to give us a signature walk-off victory. After 2 series, we are in the lead for the NL West, but we're facing the San Diego Padres and actually managed to win the series. However, just like last year, this success was short-lived, and we lost 5 straight, so we could really use this win against the Phillies, but they scored a run in the 7th inning, as we're looking to rally and get some runners aboard, and that's a very rare Brenton Doyle single. It would be amazing if his offense could develop because he's an absolute defensive wizard, but our efforts this inning could be wasted if we couldn't score runners at the corners, and that's a double play. Our offense can't afford to stall out in key situations, and we're hitting nothing but singles, so I'm glad we're at least getting some guys on base, but that is another inning-ending double play. It's really frustrating our offense couldn't score a single run, and because of that, we're all the way back down to 4th place, so there's no question that I'm focusing on scouting position players this year, and there are a few really good ones near the top of the draft. We've been fighting with the Giants to stay out of last place in our division, and this is a very close game as we just watched our 1-run lead turn into a 1-run deficit. This is very bad because it's the 9th inning, but Tyler O'Neill just blasted this one into the left center gap, giving it a ride. Deep, is it gonna climb the fence? It will not, but it's still a double. Now we've got Brendan Rodgers up, and he hits lefties very well, but faced with a full count, he's gonna get walked. There are still no outs for Nolan Nolan Jones, who's gonna slap this one the other way and drive in Tyler O'Neill. We've tied the game, but obviously we want more, and Ryan McMahon's gonna continue the trend of going the other way to score Brendan Rodgers. It's very clear a month into the season that this team's bats are either very hot or very cold, and Elias Diaz is gonna score another run. And this game is actually more important than it seems because it would be a huge milestone to not finish last in the NL West. That huge 9th inning rally helped us win this game, but the Giants remain in 3rd place in the West. We're only a month into the year, but it's nice to see Ryan McMahon finally playing up to that massive contract, while the rest of our team is definitely putting up better offensive numbers than last year. But also looking at our pitching rotation, Walker Buehler and Anthony DeSclafani are easily the best guys. I don't know when they're going to come up, but Chase Dollander and Travis Morris are definitely ready, so it's only a matter of time before we start to see our rotation take form. In scouting, I've kind of hand-selected position players who look like they could produce offensively, but my favorite prospect of the bunch is definitely Luis Vega, who's ranked right where we're picking. I'm so excited because we're just a few days from the draft, but first we have to get through this game against the Mets, and we just left the bases loaded, so our bullpen can't give up another run. But I'm nervous with Alvarez up, and thankfully he strikes out, which is going to keep this at a 1-run game as Jones gets aboard. I want to see if we can continue to rally in late game situations, and Sosa's going to make it 2 hits in a row, so we're in a really good spot as long as we don't hit into a double play, and that's exactly what Ezequiel Tovar does. That's the disadvantage of having contact hitters, but there's a free base, so we're still alive with runners at the corners, and we really shouldn't have swung at that. Then unfortunately, the Mets crushed our dreams with a 2-run shot, so we're going to lose this game unless Nolan Jones does something crazy, but he just flew out to center field, and our late game magic was not there today. It's time for the MLB draft, and I'm disappointed the draft lottery put us at 7 because I don't think Luis Vega is going to fall, but if he can, I think we have an elite center fielder on our hands, and you gotta be kidding me, he's going to our division rival. Any team but them. Thankfully, I prepared for this, but for the 2nd straight year, we're drafting a pitcher with our first pick, and it's gonna be Alfonso Jimenez. All 3 of them looked pretty equal, but Alfonso Jimenez has that hits and walks per 9 combination. I'd love to take Andy Parks next, but if he doesn't go, I can also settle for Fritz McCall and William Parker, and unfortunately, Andy Parks did get drafted by Houston, but thankfully William Parker's here. I'm just a little frustrated I lost 2 center fielders. There's a lot of options for our next pick, but I think it's a no-brainer to take the guy that has 94 to 99 potential. I really didn't think through the rest of my board, but we still have some really good options here, even though they're relative unknowns. I think I'm going to take one of these 3 third basemen though, and when I'm comparing the stats, I really like the power that Brian Lozano shows. I wasn't planning on taking any more pitchers, but I may as well because William Nobles is here. Our draft board is running out of options very fast, but I'm taking this high potential outfielder, and going to the last round, I was going to take one of these first basemen, but seeing that this pitcher's still here, I don't think I can pass him up. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that draft, since I feel like a lot of talented players got away from us, but honestly, that's just the nature of the game, and maybe our first draft of the video is just inflating my expectations, because we may have drafted our entire future starting rotation. We didn't have any all-stars this year, but Walker Buehler ranked 7 in voting, but he, along with fellow free agent signing Anthony DeSclafani, are the only good starting pitchers we have right now, so maybe we'll see a couple young arms come up this year, but I think our offense is doing better than last year. It's our first game out of the All-Star break, and we're taking on Baltimore in extra innings, but not for long. Edward Olivares is going to end this one with an RBI single. That is a walk-off win against one of baseball's best teams, so we're off to a great 3-0 start, and we're looking to make it 4-0. Brendan Rodgers, that is a shallow sacrifice fly. Now it's all up to Walker Buehler to secure a complete game shutout, and he's going to do exactly that. Riley Green pops it up, and that is another Colorado win. We were 6-0 coming out of the break, but we finally lost, but at least we're 8 games above the Giants for 4th place. We can finally see the ratings from our last draft class, and I'm a little disappointed that Alfonso Jimenez is 84 potential, even though he's 70 overall, and the reason for that is that the guy we were going to take in Luis Vega is going to be a star. At least we got William Parker in the next round, but he wasn't even my top pick, because the Astros took Andy Parks, who has 92 potential. I'm glad to see that we got some more 90+ potential guys that can be projects for us, even though Ernesto Molina needs a lot of work. I was hoping that Brian Lozano would be a lot better than he is, and I thought I would have preferred to take Sherwood Jones in this spot, but he's also not that great. Our team definitely cooled off after a hot start to the break, but they're still playing pretty well, and I'm going to jump into this game versus the Oakland Athletics, where Ryan McMahon just tied it up with a sacrifice fly. It's worth noting that I didn't make any trades at the deadline this year, even though I was tempted to, and Diaz just mashed a double in the 9th inning. Doyle has a chance to end this one, and he's going to walk, so we have 2 on with 0 away, except that changed real quick with a double play. We have a runner at 3rd base, but here's soft contact from Olivares, and we're going to extra innings. Thankfully, though, we once again have a chance to win this game because our bullpen came up big, and this one's driven deep into left center gap. Ryan McMahon gonna blast this off the wall to walk this one off. We're 65-72 at the start of September, and even though it doesn't matter for this season, we had a very good AAA season and even won the national championship. This is the last game of season number 2, and it would be great to end off with a win over the Arizona Diamondbacks as DeSclafani hung on to end the inning. I don't know how much longer Chris Bryant's gonna be on the team, but at least he had a decent year, and right now we're ahead in this game by 1 run, but there's another base hit. This could be Brendan Rodgers' last at-bat as a Colorado Rocky, but of course he's gonna hit into a double play, but maybe not because it's going over the head of the first baseman, and that will score another run. This was a very disappointing season from Nolan Jones, but at least he's going to end the season on the right note. This 2-run blast is going to give Colorado a 5-1 lead, and they won their last game to secure a very respectable 78-win season. There's a few players missing from this stat sheet because the game sent them down for some reason, but we were a much better offense this season, and one of the players the game sent down was Kris Bryant, who has the worst contract on the team, but also had a pretty decent year. For the first time in 3 seasons, he was actually a positive WAR player for Colorado. Getting Walker Buehler and Anthony DeSclafani was the best choice we could have made because otherwise this rotation was a complete disaster. Our bullpen was also pretty bad this year, but rookie Riley Pint came in and had the best season out of anybody. We got all the way up to 21st in team ERA this season, and without accounting for guys at AAA, we were 24th in team batting average. Just a couple more fun things to end the year. Juan Soto now plays for the Oakland A's, and the Dodgers had all 3 National League MVP finalists. Unfortunately, Anthony DeSclafani retired, and I was really considering bringing him back, and I've thought about this all season, but Brendan Rodgers at this pretty cheap price would be great for another 3 seasons. The reason I'm doing this is because he's improved a lot this season, and he still has a potential. However, I'm going to let everybody else here test free agency, and I still don't think that we're in a spot where spending big money in free agency makes a lot of sense, but we are bringing back Cal Quantrill for a season, and I'm taking on a big restoration project in Mike Soroka. Season 3 is here, and I'm really glad that we've improved this team a lot without really spending big in free agency, as we just won our first game of the year. And the thing I'm most excited about, though, is that we have the best farm system in all of baseball. We're trailing 2 runs to Milwaukee, but Kris Bryant just drove in 1 with this RBI single, and Sosa has a full count with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, but he just popped this one up. But after 8 games, we're in first place in our division. This series against the Dodgers could be a great indication if we're a playoff team, and welcome back to the squad, Brendan Rodgers. That's an RBI double. This one is still tied up in the 9th inning, but Nolan Jones got a hold of this one deep into right field, going all the way back to the wall where it is robbed. That was an absolutely amazing play, but Ryan McMahon's gonna avenge him with a double into the gap, and we signed Gavin Sheets late in the offseason, who hit this one right at Freddie Freeman. It's all up to Ezekiel Tovar, but he strikes out swinging, and shortly after, Los Angeles would secure the walk-off win, along with retaking the division lead. Unfortunately, we hit a huge losing skid after that, so we're looking for a 9th inning rally late against the defending champs, the New York Yankees, and Nolan Jones giving this one a ride. Does it have the distance? It does. A walk-off win for Colorado. We're doing enough to stay alive early in the season, but Edmundo Sosa just blasted a 3-run no-doubter in the 9th inning against San Francisco. Our bats are coming up big in end-of-game situations, and it makes sense because these stats are phenomenal for this point in the year. I don't want to create too high of expectations a month into the year, but this looks like a playoff team, and Nolan Jones just cleared the bases on a double, as we're showing no signs of slowing down, and here's another run added by Jose Trevino, who was signed in free agency to be our new catcher, which helped us continue our offensive surge and win another game. However, after that, we proceeded to lose 5 games in a row, and it's definitely because our starting pitching has not been great, with Walker Buehler struggling, so we might need to call in some reinforcements. I am finally calling up 24-year-old top prospect Chase Dollander, and he's the first of hopefully many pitching prospects who should be up at the show pretty soon. We're in extra innings in his first start against Texas, and it's very impressive that he only gave up 1 run to this lineup, so we gotta get a win for him. Unfortunately, Tovar made weak contact, but Nolan Jones is going back the other way to score the go-ahead run. However, there's still only 1 away, so we're looking for more. Brenton Doyle up the middle, that's not fielded cleanly, and another run scores. The bases are once again loaded for Olivares, who's gonna dribble this one the other way through the infield, and that's gonna score 2 more runs, as we were able to finish off a very good Texas team and Chase Dollander's first win. I'm also gonna call up a waiver wire guy from last year in Matt Higgins, because he has a potential, but of course that meant I had to send someone down, and Brenton Doyle is just not a major league hitter. I hope these moves can help, because we've fallen to 8 games under 500, and our very difficult schedule really is not helping. One of these tough games is against the Atlanta Braves, and we're trailing by 1 run, and a Nolan Jones single is at least going to keep this one alive, but Montero wants to drive this one the other way, giving it a ride into right field and over the fence for a go-ahead home run. I did not think that one was going to have the power, but somehow it does, so we came from behind to beat one of the best teams in the National League. I think there's a great argument to be made that Walker Buehler and Connor Overton both falling off this season is the only reason we're this bad, because right now our offense is 9th in total hits, but once again, we are 27th in total ERA. The point of this video is to turn the Rockies around in a realistic fashion, so it makes sense if we don't make the playoffs in the first 3 years, and how about Kris Bryant, the old guy, clearing the bases? And he was able to help us beat the Angels. My strategy for this MLB draft is going to be very simple, because once again, there are hardly any draftable position players on my board, but even if there was, I'd still be taking the top player on my board, Conrad Portillo, because he's guaranteed to be high overall and high potential, so this is a no-brainer for me. MLB The Show really needs to fix their game, because no draft has this many good pitchers, and I'm going to take another good one here in Oliver Schultz. I did find one high potential center field prospect in Tom Song, and even though he's 22 years old, I'm going to take a chance on him because we need position players. We ended up closing the first half with 6 wins, so we're actually in 2nd place in our division at the break. This is Travis Morris's first major league start, and he only gave up 2 runs as we're trying to get him a win, and Brendan Rodgers smashes a double. This is a huge chance to take the lead in the 9th inning, swing, and Chris Bryant made good contact, but he just flew out. It's still not over though, as we're in the top of the 11th, and Nolan Jones ripped this one over the first baseman's head for an RBI double to go up by 1 run. It's very good to have the lead, but we have a chance for more with the bases loaded, and it's Brendan Rodgers' time, but this is not looking very promising as he popped up down the first baseline, but I think this one's gonna get down, and it is to score another run. We definitely got lucky there, and Chris Bryant just got an absolute meatball. That is going to be a bases clearing 3 RBI double as we got Travis Morris his first career win. We are back up to 500, and we're in second place for the NL wildcard, and I feel like we can only get better as we continue to add more prospects, and Brendan Rodgers is gonna deliver with loaded bases to break this tie against San Francisco. This has been one of the clutchest teams in baseball, especially recently as Chris Bryant continues to enjoy his career resurgence. And Colorado ended July with just 3 losses to get all the way up to 60 wins. We're looking to make the playoffs, so I made a move at the deadline for a decent bullpen arm, and I'm finally seeing our draft, and I'm so glad that we made the decision to draft Conrad Portillo. He was the #1 player on our board, and for an obvious reason, because he's 79 overall. We definitely hit our first 3 selections out of the park, but Tom Song's going to be a little bit more of a project, along with Tomas Hidalgo, while picking Darren Wilson was a great value at the bottom of the draft. This could easily be a playoff preview as we're trying to hold off the Atlanta Braves, and Ronald Acuna Jr. had me worried with that single, but there's 2 outs for Jared Kelenic, who's going to bloop this one into shallow center field, and this will definitely get down in front of Tyler O'Neill as Acuna's trying to test it, heading for home as the relay throw comes in, and it is in time. That is how this one's going to end. That was win number 74 on the season, and we are 5 games up for the first wild card spot. This means we're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs as we enter September, and Chase Dollander has a shutout going against Los Angeles, which Nolan Jones is going to add to with this deep blast. That absolute nuke just earned us a series win against the Dodgers, and Colorado has officially clinched the playoffs. I can't believe that we just won 89 games, but I guess it makes sense because our offense was at least average this season, and after a miserable start to the season, our rotation really found itself. We're taking on St. Louis in the wild card round, but we are not off to a good start, and I'm disappointed because I expected a bit more out of Travis Morris after his regular season, but we can't panic yet because there's 2 on for Edward Olivares, and he gives this one a ride deep into the right center gap. That's gonna get down for a game-tying double. There have already been 4 total runs scored between each team, but why not add one more? Montero, that's an RBI single. What a clutch answer from our offense as they scored all 3 of those runs with 2 outs, and Ezequiel Tovar is trying to get another rally going. Our bats have opened up on fire, and that's only gonna continue as the first player we traded for in the entire video, Austin Hendrick, is on the playoff roster, and he launched a triple off the wall to score another. The Colorado Rockies made a huge statement in game number 1, but if they want to move on to the next round, they have to overcome another 2-run deficit. Thankfully, O'Neill kept that one fair for Edward Olivares, who's gonna blast him home on an opposite field shot. Just like that, they're back in this game. Budget signings like Edward Olivares and Gavin Sheets, for instance, have made all the difference in this rebuild, and we definitely wouldn't be in this position without them as Brendan Rodgers pops out. We need Walker Buehler to lock it in, and he does exactly that. So both former Dodgers pitchers ended their days only allowing 2 runs, but Ryan McMahon's already getting going against the bullpen. There's a man on second for Sosa who swings through this one to end the 7th. That's very unfortunate, and now the Rockies just have to trust their bullpen, but at the rate this is going, we're going to be seeing extra innings. The Rockies could get a walk-off in the bottom of the 9th though, but Nolan Jones just rolled over the top of this one, and Montero's in against a righty and is going to hit this one right to short. We have to remember that no matter what happens here, we are still going to game 3 no matter what, but it would definitely be cool to see a walk-off that sends us to the NLDS. Unfortunately though, we have not been able to hit anything for the last 5 innings or so we're going to the 11th, and I'm honestly at the point where I'm just ready for someone to win this, and somehow that got down for a single. The winning run is officially on base, but Olivares just let a meatball go to waste for a ground out. It is now the bottom of the 13th where Brendan Rodgers gets aboard with a single, so it'd be really nice to do something here, but of course it is another double play. We cannot avoid these. I'm so glad we signed a veteran arm mid-season to come out of the bullpen because he's been in for 5 innings, and after Tyler O'Neill walked and then stole a base, Edward Olivares is going to score him. Finally, this one is over and we're going to the NLDS. No one is giving our team a chance in the NLDS against the Los Angeles Dodgers, but Nolan Jones just hit an opposite field double in the first inning to get us on the board. A pass ball got him to third base, and Gavin Sheets has a full count. He probably shouldn't have swung at that one, but at least his sacrifice fly is going to score Nolan Jones. Just a reminder that for the 2nd straight season, LA had all 3 MVP finalists, but somehow, some way, we have gotten into Ohtani's head early on. Unfortunately, the rally wouldn't last, but Mike Soroka's putting in work, and Brendan Rodgers just hit a solo bomb in the 4th, so all is looking good until the 6th inning when Adames tied the game in 1 swing. This is the last team in the world that I would want to be tied up with late in the game, but even worse, we could be going to extra innings, and we certainly will be securing the final out of regulation. After 13 innings last week, we do not have the bullpen stamina to go deep in this one, so it could very likely be a now or never situation to score a run. Tyler O'Neill, perfect off the bat. That one's going to straightaway center, and it is gone. It is very clear this team does not want to play in extra innings, and what an answer in game number 1 against the Dodgers, as this one from Olivares also has a shot to go, and there it is, back-to-back home runs. runs. It certainly looks like game number 1 will be ours, and it certainly will be. Gavin Sheets, a no-doubter, just 2 at-bats later for number 3 of the inning. That certainly could have come earlier in the game, but I can't complain about a 1-0 start. We are getting hot at the right time as O'Neal opened this game with a solo shot, but that remains our only hit of the game so far, so I'm a little worried. But I am so blown away by how good Cal Quantrill's second stint with us has been, as he has shut down the Dodgers today, and Ryan McMahon just scored 2 more runs. However, the Dodgers rallied against our bullpen with 3 runs, so we are in trouble, as this could be another extra innings game, which we do not have the bullpen stamina for. Not 1, not 2, but 3 extra inning playoff games in a row for the Colorado Rockies. But for whatever reason, this pitcher cannot throw a single strike. This means the bases are loaded for Nolan Jones with 1 out, and all he needs to do is hit this one deep enough for a sacrifice fly. Honestly, this would be the most Dodgers way to lose in the playoffs ever, and we are not done. Gavin Sheets hits another RBI. I cannot believe that Colorado is taking game number 2, but the Dodgers are up 4-2 in game 3, at least until Montero drives in Nolan Jones on a sacrifice fly. Colorado could earn a sweep if they could somehow come back in this game, and Brendan Rodgers is going to launch this double into the right center gap. That'll get him started. However, there's 2 outs for Edmundo Sosa, and he is not able to deliver here. Phillips is looking to close out the Dodgers' first win of the entire series, but this one is crushed deep into left field, going back, and unfortunately it's not going to be able to get down. Just a bit more power, and we would have secured the upset of a lifetime, but instead it's going to have to wait another game. Travis Morris is taking on Shohei Ohtani, and somehow he just scored 5 runs. I did not mean to simulate that inning, but look at this insane rally from our team. 7 hits and 5 runs, and so far the rookie Morris has allowed 1 hit. It looks like the very first draft pick of the whole series is going to send us to the next round, and that is exactly what he did. What an upset against the Dodgers. I cannot believe that just happened, but now we're facing the Padres, and we're definitely in a bit of trouble in game 1, as we're already down 1 run, but Tyler O'Neill turns on this one, sending it deep to left field where it's gonna be caught. For a split second, I thought he was gonna tie the game right back up. However, Olivares got aboard, and there's only 1 out for Nolan Jones, who's gonna turn on this one, giving it a ride deep into right center field, and instead of just tying this game, we're gonna take the lead. I'm starting to wonder if beating the Dodgers wasn't a fluke, but so far, Walker Buehler is not making this an easy game, so thankfully we get 2 aboard, and there's only 1 away for Jose Trevino. Facing a 2-2 count, he's unable to lay off the slider, as we missed a huge opportunity by stranding 2 runners on base, but we're back at it in the 3rd. There are runners at the corners for Gavin Sheets, who doesn't get much on this one, but it's definitely enough to score the go-ahead run on the sacrifice fly. Our offense has looked so good so far, and Brendan Rodgers is getting in on the action, launching this one into left center field and watching it go all the way to the warning track where it bounces into the seats. The bases are loaded for Jose Trevino, who swings at the first pitch he sees, and a weak single up the middle is all they need to drive in 2 runs. 5 runs in the 3rd inning would help us take game 1, and I honestly can't tell if our team is just on a hot streak or if they're really this good. However, our bats have slowed down just a little bit in game number 2, but with 2 on, Francisco Mejia is going to tie it up, keeping this one fair down the line. 1 rally is all we need to take the lead in this one, and Tovar drives this one deep into left field. No way they're getting to that, and that is a huge RBI double for our young shortstop. I don't know why they're leaving all these pitches over the plate, especially on Hall of Fame difficulty, as rookie outfielder Austin Hendrick got one to drive the other way for a 3-run shot. I guess San Diego just doesn't have very good pitching, and Nolan Jones continues to make his case for playoff MVP, as after that, we put together another 6-run inning, and we have gone up 2-0 in the NLCS. Unfortunately, we only scored 1 run in a game 3 loss, and Chase Dollander is back on the mound for game 4. He's trying to protect our 1-run lead in the 5th inning, but Riley Green put that one in the perfect spot over the first baseman's head. Now he's in a very scary situation against Fernando Tatis, but thankfully he's gonna pop up to end the inning. However, we're facing a knuckleball pitcher in Matt Waldron, and that's just impossible. That pitch literally freezes in the air right when you're supposed to hit it, so I don't know how we're gonna do this, but thankfully for us, Chase Dollander has really rebounded after a rough start against the Dodgers to buy us some extra time. San Diego would take out their robot pitcher for the 8th inning, but unfortunately, Nolan Jones struck out and we could not score another run. Then right after that, our bullpen completely collapsed with a 5-run 8th inning, and San Diego has tied the series at 2 wins apiece. This is really bad because now in the top of the 6th inning, we're down by 1 run, but Nolan Jones is gonna drive in the tying RBI. Travis Morris is also back on the mound after a huge game against the Dodgers to get us the win, and Tovar is gonna break the tie with a dinger into left field. After that, our offense woke up in a big way with a 3-run shot in the 8th, and Travis Morris earned another playoff win. I cannot believe that we are 1 win away from the World Series in season number 3, and I did not expect to be in this position for at least another 2 years. After a very slow start to the season, everything has come together in the playoffs, but Ryan McMahon just grounded into an inning-ending double play. Thankfully for us, Walker Buehler just finished his 7th inning, and grab your popcorn because this game is way too close and it's definitely going to come down to the wire. However, maybe I spoke too soon because now we're in a very bad situation in the 8th inning as San Diego's late surge forces game 7. Of course, we have a tie game in the 6th inning as all of these have been so close, and Olivares lightly grounded ground to this one with runners at the corners, but he's able to beat out a throw for a go-ahead RBI. He just barely beat that one out, but it could easily make a difference in this game as Nolan Jones grounded this one a short, but it's going over his head. Gavin Sheets has 2-1, but they're going to actually intentionally walk him. So Ryan McMahon's now up with the bases loaded, and he's able to sneak this one through to score a run. Our bullpen blew it last game, and this could be the very same story, but at least we have a 1-run lead in the top of the 8th inning, but this is a quick double from Machado. One hit is all that they need to tie this game, as this one's blooped into left field, and I do not think we're going to be able to get to that one. Machado's going to score. This is very bad, as we cannot allow any deep contact, but we do exactly that with runners at the corners to allow the go-ahead run. We started this series so strong, but the Padres have come storming back, and it doesn't seem like we have an answer as Tyler O'Neill drives this one, but it's not deep enough. We could be down to our final 3 outs of season number 3, so this is the biggest moment of Nolan Jones's career. He really needs to be careful with the 2-2 count as another ball fills it up, but that's the exact pitch that he wanted. A fastball down the middle that he is going to watch fly into right field for a no-doubter. Nolan Jones turned on that one, and he has become an absolute superstar. Nolan Jones, holy moly, I cannot believe that happened, but there's still 0 outs in the bottom of the 9th, so we can walk this one off. Gavin Sheets has already been intentionally walked today, so obviously the Padres are afraid of him as that's a free base. However, Ryan McMahon just flew out deep, and now Brendan Rodgers is going to follow up, so it's all up to Sosa if we want to avoid extra innings, but that is not going to happen. I will be so upset if we waste Nolan Jones's home run, because not only did he hit a dinger, but he also hit for the cycle. Are you kidding me? That is another one for Jones. I cannot believe it. A walk-off home run going the other way as our superstar player has single-handedly sent us to the World Series. Honestly, like, I just need a moment because this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen happen in any of my videos. We were not even supposed to beat the Dodgers, and now a Game 7 miracle has put us on baseball's biggest stage. For once in my videos, I literally have no words, but we're taking on Baltimore, and as you know, this is another very good young team, but we'll give it our best shot. To my surprise, this game is neck and neck, tied up at 1 apiece in the 7th inning, and we just turned a double play, so we have a chance to take the lead in the 8th inning as Jones hits this one well straight to the right fielder. Now we're relying on our bullpen, but we're in big trouble as Adley Rutschman's gonna sneak this one through to put 2 runners on. To make things worse, however, we left one right over the plate for Jackson Holliday, who's gonna take advantage, ripping this one to right field for a go-ahead 3-run shot. That was absolutely not where Jonathan Loaisiga was supposed to leave that pitch, and his poor command is gonna cost us another run and the first game of the World Series. Then we also lost game number 2, so we desperately need a victory in game number 3 as we're winning 7-6. I am putting so much faith in our bullpen to help secure a win, but it would also really help if our offense could wake up to help extend our late lead. There's 1 out with 2 outs for Tyler O'Neill, and he belts this one deep into left field, watching this one go to extend our lead, and we won that game to get on the board, and now we're trying to tie up the series. The big problem for us, though, is that there's 1 out, and Justin Lawrence is having trouble getting more. We replaced him with Riley Pine to try to end this one, and sure enough, he's gonna secure a double play, and we have come back with 2 wins in a row to even the World Series. Game 5 could be so crucial in determining the winner, but we are off to a terrible start, and it's gonna be really hard to come back from that first inning, but thankfully our pitching has definitely settled down. Unfortunately, aside from 2 runs, our offense has been dead, so Baltimore is 1 win away from winning the World Series. Travis Morris is on the mound looking to save our season, and thankfully for us, he's pitched a shutout so far. If we win the World Series, it would be one of the most improbable playoff runs of all time, and right now, all signs are pointing towards another winner-takes-all Game 7. The best thing about Morris is that he has the stamina to last long in these starts, but there's 2 aboard, so I am definitely getting nervous, but I trust him against Gunnar Henderson, as it's a 1-2 count, and that was a beautiful slider to the corner for the punch-out. I cannot express how good the rookie pitcher has been through the playoffs, and it's amazing to me just how important the first draft pick of the video has been to getting us to this point. This is also a great time for our offense to get going, but Tovar grounded this one back up the middle, and the runner at third base is gonna get thrown out. We came so close to scoring another run, but now we're only 2 outs away from going to Game 7. We just need Holton to finish strong for us, and that's gonna be hit hard, but right to the left fielder for out 2. Holton is ahead in this count, but that fastball's right down the middle. However, it is not going to matter because it's popped up deep to Nolan Jones, who's able to make the play and send us to Game 7. Plain and simple, whoever wins this game will win the whole World Series, and in the first inning, we already have a runner on base, and Nolan Jones is gonna blast this one into right field, where it is not gonna be able to field it off the wall, and that will put runners at 2 and 3. Can Gavin Sheets drive in the first run of the World Series? This one certainly feels like it's hit well, going back to center field all the way to the wall and over the fence for a 3-run shot in the first inning. I might have to change the hitting difficulty to legend after this year, but at the same time, I also feel like we've just built a good offense as Chase Dollander's in trouble but gets out of it. However, this may be a short game for him as he loaded the bases again, and this time Gunnar Henderson is gonna bloop this one down the third baseline to score 2 runs. runs. Now we have a runner at third, so we can extend our lead, but Sosa strikes out looking. Dollander's looking to close out the 6th inning strong, but he might get pulled early as Cowser's going to blast this one into right for a double. Going to the bullpen was definitely the safe move. There's a strikeout, so this would be the perfect time for our offense to finally wake up, and Tyler O'Neill on a full count's gonna launch a double into the gap. Now we just need to hope that Edward Olivares can send him home because he's very good against lefties, but he flies out this time. We have built one of the best bullpens in all of baseball, and we have 3 innings to protect a 1-run lead, but more than anything, we should be hoping that our offense can take a little pressure off of them by scoring some more runs. That didn't happen though, and this is pitch number 10 to Adley, and we got him. That's 1 out down as we walked Gunnar Henderson, but honestly that's okay because we were pitching around him, but now we're in a tough spot with a full count to Jackson Holiday, and Jameson missed. One bad pitch could cost us this game, and that should have been it, but all things considered, I'm relieved Cowser didn't take advantage, and now this soft grounder is going to get us out of the inning. Our route to the World Series really reminds me of when the Phillies went a couple years ago, since that team beat a very good opponent in the divisional round and rode a hot streak the rest of the way. The difference for us, however, is we might actually win this one, as Tovar's going to bloop a single that drops in center field, and the Colorado Rockies have gone up by 2 runs in the 9th inning. I do not know why they've decided to keep Cole Irvin in the game, but he is absolutely blowing it for them right now, and throughout this entire playoff run, we can say what we want about our offense, but our pitching has really kept us in these games. However, this one's getting a little concerning as Justin Lawrence is having trouble closing this out. He has been so good this season, but he's facing Gunnar Henderson, and he wasted no time doubling into the gap in right field, as Baltimore has scored 3 runs in the 9th inning to tie this game up. We have no choice but to change pitchers in the 9th inning, and thankfully we get out of this one, but that is very unfortunate. Just a minute ago, I was talking like the World Series was in the bag, but now we're on the verge of experiencing a heartbreak that many teams never recover from. We have to be so careful in the bottom of the 10th, because one misplaced pitch could give the Orioles a walk-off, and that was a beautiful play from Rogers. Thankfully though, our best bullpen arm is in the game, and I spoke too soon. Colton Cowser with a double to the gap. With just 1 out, this is officially terrifying, as a grounder is going to get Cowser to third base, and I think our best chance here is to just keep throwing low sinkers and hope for a ground out, but that was not low at all, and the Colorado Rockies, in heartbreaking fashion, have lost the World Series. After being underestimated as a wild card team, we made it all the way to the World Series and took the Baltimore Orioles to Game 7, where they broke our hearts. I've been a Seattle sports fan my whole life, and this championship loss in a video game is actually competing with when the Seahawks threw an interception at the 1. That is so unfortunate, but we have to find the silver lining here and look forward to the future, because we were not even supposed to make it this far. I feel so bad for Nolan Jones, who put everything on the line to advance us to the World Series in the first place, and he is so deserving of National League Playoff MVP, but I wish it could have been World Series MVP. My heart is still shattered, but we made it to the World Series with a lot of young players who are still improving, and I think they'll definitely be back. Going into the offseason, we have 3 free agents, but the only one I'm really thinking about bringing back is Cal Quantrill, because if you remember, he was around for season number 1 of the franchise, and we brought him back on a free agency deal where he actually put up a pretty good WAR. I don't know if it's going to be Quantrill yet, but getting another veteran arm on a 1-year deal is a must for me, because that's going to give us a ton more flexibility with Conrad Portillo and Luis Silva. Before free agency even starts though, I'm going to make a big trade with the New York Yankees. New York is a contending team, but they need help at 2 positions, being first base and third base. Thankfully for us, we have a starting caliber guy at the hot corner who's kind of been losing at-bats recently, but has put up good numbers over the past couple years. But I also feel like we can get them a decent option at first base, but it's not anybody listed here. At 35 years old, Chris Bryant no longer has the defense to be a decent corner outfielder, but as you can see, one of his secondary positions is first base. We're giving up a solid third baseman to get Bryant's last 2 years off the books, so we're obviously not getting much in return on this deal, but we are taking on a long-term first base project with power and Manuel Mendoza, along with another bullpen project with strikeout upside. Throughout this rebuild, I've targeted undervalued players in free agency, and that's still the case for a guy like Andrew Vaughn, who simply has not panned out the way that he was expected to. But after losing the World Series and clearing up a ton of cash, I'm going big with an offer to Ryan Jeffers. I think we've done a very good job of balancing homegrown talent with free agency, and I've been thinking about this for a while, but after his playoff performance, I think it's time to pay Nolan Jones. That is a great contract to get done, and now I'm going to give one to Ezequiel Tovar. At the beginning of season 4, it would be an understatement to say that our farm system is good, as we have 5 top 11 prospects, but my favorite part of all of this is that every player in our top 20 has at least B potential. This is our lineup against righties this year, as Ryan Jeffers should be a big upgrade at catcher, while we're also replacing Ryan McMahon with top prospect Adale Amador. This is also going to be a make or break year for Brenton Doyle, because he was absolutely terrible last year. On the pitching side of things, not much has changed, but we did sign Bailey Falter late in free agency to come out of the pen. It's opening day, but we're down by 1 in the 7th to Arizona, but with 2 on and 0 away, Ryan Jeffers is up, and he already has 1 home run in this game, but make it number 2. This one just keeps going over the fence for a 3-run blast. What a debut for our big free agent signing, and after 1 week, the Colorado Rockies are undefeated. I'm definitely relieved that we started out this season hot, but now we have a rematch against the World Series champs, and right now we're leading by 1 run, but after seeing Game 7 of the World Series, I don't trust it. We're gonna give Justin Lawrence the chance to earn the save that he couldn't get the last time we played Baltimore, except this time it's only a 1-run lead, so he has to be very careful. He's able to get ahead versus Langford, and here's a strikeout, so the tying run is at first with 2 outs, but Lawrence is able to close this game, and that is sweet, sweet revenge for Colorado. Even at 13-3, we are tied with the Dodgers for the division lead, but they're our next opponent as we're looking to break the division tie. Chase Dollander has really stepped up with 7 scoreless innings, so we lead by 1 run, and Olivares is gonna get aboard with a triple. We have a great chance to score another run, but unfortunately there's 2 outs, so we have no choice but to rely on Brenton Doyle's below average bat, but he actually delivers with an RBI double. We shut out one of the best teams in baseball, and I want to say that's surprising to me, but looking at the stats after just a couple weeks, I see why we're the best team in baseball right now. I definitely did not have a Gavin Sheets MVP season on my bingo card, and just by simulating, we're off to one of the best starts in baseball history, where the bases are loaded in the 7th inning, and what a play from Ozzie Albies. That was a great opportunity for Boyle to prove himself, but he got robbed, so I'm just glad we beat another good team. I have simulated all the way to July, and I have never seen anything like this, as we are 70-17. I have been playing this game for a very long time, and this is the most shocking thing I've ever seen, as we're just raking at every level. But it's even crazier to me that we have 2 Cy Young finalists. I don't know how this happened, but we're on pace to have the best season in the history of Major League Baseball. I really have to apologize because I just lost my entire recording session from July all the way until the last game of the season, and honestly, this was caused by a very dumb mistake on my end, so I think I'm just gonna try to recap everything that happened. Coming into the All-Star break, we were on pace to win over 120 games, so I wanted to make a huge trade deadline move. At this time, Milwaukee was the worst team in baseball and was looking to start a full rebuild, so Sal Frelick was on the block and I could not pass him up. In order to get him, I sent Drew Romo alongside right fielder Austin Hendrick, who was the first player we ever traded for. However, as you can see, we had a bit of a cold stretch coming out of the break and then into August with a ton of losses, and even though we really rebounded in September, we won 112 games. At the end of the year, I was shocked that Chase Dollander took home the Cy Young, and Dale Amador got us another draft pick by taking home Rookie of the Year. Ignore Matt Manning, who I just signed in the offseason, but our pitching rotation was absolutely electric with the addition of Luis Silva, but we were set for a huge rematch against our division rival in the NLDS and the Dodgers, and we were able to beat them in 5 games. The Cardinals were next up, and they were a very improved team with Vlad Guerrero Jr., but unfortunately, we were just too much for them. That advanced us to the World Series for the 2nd year in a row, where we were taking on the Cleveland Guardians and got off to a fast start with 3 wins before taking 3 losses to force a winner-takes-all Game 7, where my recording left off. We are doing our absolute best to let Cleveland back into this series, as Andrew Vaughn is going to pop up deep into left field, so here's our last chance for a 9th inning walk-off win, but Rogers is going to ground out. Unfortunately for us, though, it looks like we're going to game number 7 because they scored 2 runs, but maybe we're not done yet. Ezekiel Tovar launches this one into right center. That is a dinger. We need at least 1 run, and we have 3 outs to get it. Dale Amador is going the other way, and unfortunately, I was just a little bit late on this one. So the Guardians would win their 3rd game in a row, and we have a chance to blow a 3-game lead. Game 7 is not going our way so far, but the bases are loaded for Nolan Jones, who immediately grounds into a double play. It is crazy that I was ready just a few minutes ago to celebrate a World Series sweep, but maybe we're not done yet because Andrew Vaughn just hit a dinger. I cannot believe that we could be 2 innings away from losing another World Series after being up 3 games, so I'm honestly starting to wonder if this franchise is just cursed and Dale Amador gets on base. Once again, there's 2 outs, and I do not know why I swung there. We're going to leave another runner in scoring position. It is all going to come down to this. Nolan Jones against a 1-2 count, gets one to obliterate into right center field, and we have a bit more life. However, we are facing one of the best closers in baseball. This one's hit well. Ryan Jeffers going back. That's going to be more than enough to advance Jones to 3rd. I do not like my pinch hit options in this scenario, so I'm going to rock with the lineup we have, and I am so glad we did. Andrew Vaughn deep to left field. That is gone. A walk-off Game 7 home run is gonna win the World Series for Colorado. Our offense was starting to cool down in games 4, 5, and 6, but they turned it around right when it mattered most and won the first pennant in franchise history. I cannot believe that it only took 4 seasons to win our first title, and this team has a very bright future. We have some pretty tough decisions to make this offseason, but there is no reason to think this team does not get better, especially because despite a few call-ups, this is still the best farm system in all of baseball, and I think Conrad Portillo has the chance to be our best young young pitcher yet. Edmundo Sosa was the only pending free agent I brought back this offseason, and this is really because he can play every infield spot and hits lefties extremely well, so why not give him another 3-year deal? Then in free agency, I'm not really a huge fan of this class because everyone available is either too old, at a position we don't need, or expensive, so the only offers I'm putting out are to Matt Manning as a security blanket 5th starter, then Trevor Rogers, who would cost us $3 million a year, as a guy who has A potential and could easily be a long relief option for us. That was probably the least eventful offseason we've had yet, but I also feel like we didn't need to make any big moves because of the young core that we have, and I guess we're gonna find out very early if that was the right strategy. Sal Frelick driving in a run against the Dodgers. There are a ton of big questions surrounding this team, such as if Tyler O'Neill's gonna have another MVP season. This is a huge double to clear the bases. This win against the Dodgers already gives me confidence that our World Series win was not a fluke, and we even started the series by busting out the brooms for a sweep. Simming ahead to the All-Star break, the Rockies are off to another ridiculous start, and I'll be the first to admit that I thought that last year was a fluke, but this team is proving me wrong every single season. The reason for another historic start is once again because our pitching staff has been completely dominant. Chase Dollander, Travis Morris, and now Luis Silva coming together as a huge unit. It also really helps that Matt Manning is having a career season and Mike Soroka is solid as usual. Trevor Rogers is also proving to be a great free agent signing, as he is our best reliever to this point in the year, so he's in second place for All-Star voting, but Travis Morris and Chase Dollander lead starting pitching voting, and Luis Silva's at number 6. Gavin Sheets, Nolan Jones, and Tyler O'Neill are all doing their thing, but the big surprise to me is that Sal Frelick has 720,000 votes. However, looking at his stats, this makes a lot of sense because he's somehow added power to his game, as he already has 23 home runs halfway through the year. I cannot believe how good this pitching rotation is, but I think it's finally time to bring up Conrad Portillo. But before that can happen, I need to clear a roster spot, and I think a lot of you know what move is coming. This has been a very successful reclamation project, but it's time to get something in return, and we're gonna get an A potential first base prospect in Andy Savage. It is finally time to add our future ace Conrad Portillo to the rotation, and we're also bringing up a new closer in former second-round pick Cesar Cabrera. Last year at the trade deadline, we made a huge move bringing in Sal Frelick, and I want to make another move this year, but it's definitely much smaller. Third baseman Kobe Mayo is a really nice player, but the problem for him is that he's being blocked by Gunnar Henderson, so he's basically never gonna play, and it looks like they're looking to add a first baseman and a corner outfielder, so why not send back Matt Higgins, who can play both of those positions. This will be a 1-for-1 trade, and I think it works out pretty well for each side. Now that we're in season 5 and I'm trying to move quicker, I set my scouting to auto, and I honestly was expecting this to hurt, but overall this was a very well-rounded draft with a 96, 95, and 92 potential down the board. I think we've put our team in a very good position to compete for a long time. We just won over 116 games. You are looking at the greatest regular season baseball team of all time, and it's no surprise given all of these 800 OPSs, and 5 guys on our team hit over 25 home runs. However, as you know, the best part of this team was definitely the starting rotation, which absolutely cooked this year, and the addition of Conrad Portillo made it even better. Once again, Chase Dollander and Travis Morris were 1 and 2 for the Cy Young, while Justin Lawrence was in 3rd for reliever of the year, and Nolan Jones was in 3rd place for the Hank Aaron Award. We're taking on the Marlins in the NLDS, as we won 2 games, and even though they beat the Dodgers to get here, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna beat us. Andrew Vaughn's going yard in game number 4, so Colorado is going back to the NLCS for the 3rd straight year. Once again, we're gonna be up against the St. Louis Cardinals, and it's looking like the same story, as they're already facing elimination, but they lead by a run as Andrew Vaughn's going the other way. This is popped up deep into right field, so that's gonna put the first out on the board unless he can't handle it cleanly. What a nightmare to put runners at 2 and 3. There's 1 out for Sal Frelick, who has a chance to tie the game, and this is gonna be more than deep enough for a sacrifice fly to make it 5-5. We have 2 innings to score the go-ahead run and hopefully go back to the World Series, and Edmundo Sosa with 2 outs in the 8th innings gonna drive this one deep to center field and over the fence. We have turned the tables on St. Louis, and with Mason Miller on the mound, I am not worried as there's 2 outs, and we are going back to the World Series for the 3rd time in a row. This team is growing up so fast, and it's been a very exciting video so far, and honestly, I'm a little bummed that it's only a 10-year rebuild, because I feel like there's still so much more to see. No matter who wins the ALCS, we are getting a World Series rematch, but I'm very glad that it's Baltimore because they were the team that beat us 2 years ago. The Orioles are the last team standing in front of us, and they were up by 1 run in the first game until Brendan Rodgers hit an RBI double. This is usually the point in games where we can really attack their opponent as they're in their bullpen, and Adael Amador is going to launch another double. David Kuhn is absolutely throwing right now. Tyler O'Neill just took advantage of a high curve ball, and that was 2 doubles in a row followed by a 2-run shot. We came from from behind to earn a Game 1 victory, so that's definitely going to give us a ton of confidence, which we're going to need for game number 2. The game is on the line as we're down 1 facing Felix Bautista, and it's going to be very tough to square up these fastballs, but Gavin Sheets at least gets a single. That can make Nolan Jones the winning run, but with 2 outs, he just grounded into our first loss of the World Series. Game 3 is definitely a pitcher's duel between Travis Morris and Tariq Skubal as we're tied up at 1 apiece. Unfortunately though, Gunnar Henderson gave Baltimore the lead, and it's really starting to feel like they're the weakness of this 123 win team. No matter how early I swing at this fastball, I feel like I'm too late, but finally we got one hit from Bautista. O'Neill sends it way back and off the wall where it's gonna bounce down, except of course O'Neill is not gonna stay at second base. Auto base running strikes again, and we lose game 3. We are officially in trouble, but thankfully we're gonna win the next game. And of course, game 5 is tied up 3-3 in the 8th. I don't think this series could be any more stressful. Mejia is able to somehow sneak this one through the middle to get 2 aboard. There are runners at first and second for Andrew Vaughn, who hits this one weakly, and that double play is gonna end the inning. Thankfully though, our bullpen did not collapse, so we're still in this one, at least for now, as Montero flies out. That was a good effort, and now we're just hoping for Bailey Falter to not allow a run. Are you kidding me? We are not capable of playing a normal World Series, but at least Brendan Rodgers is not gonna let us get eliminated just yet. For the second season in a row, the World Series is gonna come down to game number 7. These 2 teams have proven to be about as evenly matched as you can get, and once again, this is a close game where Baltimore leads by 1 run and O'Neill cannot get it to go. Despite the fact that we led the MLB in home runs this year, our power has completely disappeared, and now there's 2 outs with runners on first and second, and this one's hit right back to Skubal. At least our pitching's been pretty good against them though, as Mejia smokes this one into center field, where it's gonna get by Colton Cowser and allow Mejia to get all the way to third base. We have 3 outs to score him from third base, so we're gonna do the smart thing and lay down a sacrifice bunt, which wasn't pretty, but worked out in the end. Big props to Travis Morris in this game, especially because he just struck out Gunnar Henderson, so now we need to break through their bullpen, but Gavin Sheets also strikes out. Rookie reliever Cesar Cabrera is absolutely cooking right now, and we're gonna have a walk-off chance if he can get 1 more out, which he's gonna do. However, I'm really not excited about having to face off against Bautista again, because he's got me absolutely waving at these pitches, and that was a 10-mile-an-hour difference from his fastball. The final game of the World Series is coming down to extra innings. That was not where that was supposed to be, but thankfully we're not punished for it. Unfortunately though, Bautista is still in the game in the bottom of the 10th, so I'm really not having a fun time right now. All we need is 1 pitch to turn on, and there we go. Adael Amador got it and launches this double into right field. Nolan Jones can end this game in 1 swing, but that was a huge missed opportunity. We just need 1 more strike from Justin Lawrence, and there we go. He gets out of an inning with runners at the corners. Neither offense has shown any desire to win this game so far, and as much as I can say I love a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel, it gets very annoying when we keep popping everything up, as Vaughn gets a hold of this one, and it's not going to be far enough, except maybe it is. It goes over the wall, and the game is over. We are repeat World Series champions. We have gotten revenge against the Baltimore Orioles, and honestly, I didn't even think that one had a chance to go over, but they took out Bautista, and we were able to capitalize and walk off Game 7 of the World Series. We have taken down the team that broke our hearts 2 seasons ago, and in doing so, I think we have to make the argument that this 123-win team was the best team in MLB history, as they not only broke the record for regular season wins, but also repeated as champions in the process. The only person that stopped Travis Morris from winning back-to-back Cy Youngs was Chase Dollander, who actually did it, so we basically have 2 young Cy Young winners on our team, along with 2 arms that have already proven themselves in Conrad Portillo, Luis Silva, and Matt Manning. Add in the success of Tyler O'Neill becoming a 2-time All-Star, alongside Sal Frelick coming here and adding power to his game, and I really think we've built a powerful offensive identity very similar to what Atlanta's done. As with any contending team though, we're gonna have some tough offseason decisions, especially Tyler O'Neill, who I'm gonna immediately tender the qualifying offer to. My thought process is that he's probably not gonna accept that, but at least we get a first-round pick out of it if someone signs him. And don't get me wrong, Justin Lawrence is great, but we have so many young closers that I think I'm ready to hand the reins to. I also considered bringing back Brendan Rodgers on a 1-year deal, but Luis Arraez is a much better hitter, and I think he's really gonna be an upgrade. Now I'm gonna make my biggest free agency move yet, going after Spencer Torkelson for $11 million a season over 6 years, simply because we're losing Tyler O'Neill, so we need another impact bat, and I really think he's gonna be that guy. Year number 6 was dominant again for Colorado as they won 113 games, and it was clear early on they were on a mission for a three-peat. This is no surprise because they were even better than last year, with Brenton Doyle reaching his potential and Conrad Portillo becoming the team's ace, but now they're taking on the Dodgers, who are always a challenge, but once again they win. Now the Rockies have a chance for a huge three-peat against the Houston Astros, and after winning 3 of the first 4 games, Sal Frelick is able to drive in the go-ahead RBI in the 7th. This is definitely a much less dramatic World Series than we've had in the past, and Andrew Vaughn's gonna drive in another run. So for the 3rd year in a row, your Colorado Rockies have become World Series champions, cementing them as one of, if not the best MLB team of all time. This was another 107-win season for the Rockies, but in a crazy turn of events, this was not good enough to win their division. But regardless, I cannot believe how good this team has become, as all of our prospects have gone to reach their potential. Also, can we just talk about how hilarious it is that Brenton Doyle, who couldn't hit standing water at the beginning of the video, has suddenly become one of the best center fielders in baseball? It makes absolutely no sense. We are one of 4 100-win teams to ever make the playoffs as a wildcard team, but now we have a huge revenge series against the Dodgers, and we won it in 4. Now we're facing the Giants in the playoffs for the 2nd straight year, and we won, so we're continuing our deja vu, playing Houston in the World Series once again, and this time it's gonna come down to game number 7. I feel like I did everything I possibly could to make this video as realistic as possible, but we're still going for our 4th World Series, as that blooper from Torkelson's gonna drop to tie this game. However, the Astros are gonna clap right back with a solo home run, so our God Squad might be in trouble, or at least that's what I thought until Sal Frelick blasted this home run to straightaway center. He was one of 2 big trade acquisitions that I made in this video, and he was really the glue that put this offense together. This game would go to extra innings, but unfortunately, we are in big trouble, so we're gonna need a miracle if we want to win our 4th World Series in a row, and Sal Frelick is not helping. I didn't understand how any team could come close to beating ours, but it actually makes sense because this Houston Astros team is absolutely loaded, and even includes former Rockies like Hunter Goodman, and of course, the guy we let go this past year in Gavin Sheets. There's a reason they made it this far, as we're down to our final outs, and Nolan Jones hit this one well to deep center field, but it's not going to be far enough, and after a huge three-peat, the Houston Astros come back and get their revenge. We reclaimed our division title in Season 7 with 111 wins, and it's no surprise that we had this type of success with 2 MVP finalists, along with 2 more for the Cy Young, with our 2nd ever draft pick Kyle Carlberg taking it home. Additionally, Spencer Torkelson and Kobe Mayo absolutely raked, and Tork himself took home the Hank Aaron Award. I thought our home run numbers in previous years were good, but this team has absolutely blown that success out of the water, and our starting pitching is so good that 2 former Cy Young finalists are now our 4 and 5 starters. There is no way that this team doesn't win the World Series, but I spoke too soon as we lost in the NLDS. That is so unfortunate, as this team continues to look different every single year, and judging on player stats alone, I can already tell this season was a success, as we won 117 games, along with a lot more hardware, as we had 3 finalists for the NL MVP, and then 3 more for the NL Cy Young, along with 2 finalists for the Hank Aaron Award. Even 8 years into the future, it is so nice to still see Nolan Jones and Travis Morris dominating. Unfortunately for Morris though, this is the last year of his contract, and with so much pitching depth on this roster, there's no reason to bring him back. Our lineup is absolutely stacked heading into the playoffs, and this combination of our starting rotation and the bullpen is beyond ridiculous. I'm hoping we can get revenge against Houston, and sweeping the Giants in the NLDS is a good start before taking 4 of 5 to the Reds. In a huge twist of fate, however, we're taking on my favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, and only in a video game will you find them spending big in free agency. Ezequiel Tovar is also on the team, and we already saw one of our former players beat us in a World Series, so I'm really hoping Tovar's not the second. We need to redeem ourselves after losing in the NLDS last season, and we do so in a big way with a World Series sweep. Now though, I think it's finally time to trade Nolan Jones away to make room for some of the younger players, so this team is getting even more unrecognizable, especially as I'm trading Sal Frelick. We have not gotten close to our 122 win season, but obviously when you have a team that looks like this, there's really no room for complaining, as we have a whole page of 90 overalls and it's still going. Our team has had the MVP 3 years in a row, and I have lost count of how many Cy Youngs we've won in the video. It wasn't as crazy as a home run year, but obviously my expectations are a little elevated because of how well we've played over the past few years, as we're looking to win our 5th World Series in 7 years, and I cannot believe we are almost to season 10 as there's an NLCS win. Once again, we are taking on Baltimore, who at this point in the video has lost a lot of their core, but it's really cool their best skill position player is Matt Higgins, who we traded for Kobe Mayo like 5 years ago. We've already won 2 World Series against the O's, and we just earned the easiest sweep of our life. It looks like we're gonna have to do this last season without Spencer Torkelson because he wants way too much money, but just for fun, let's do the right thing and get Nolan Jones 1 more ring. To no one's surprise, we're winning a lot of games, but that does not mean anything if we can't get to the World Series, because we have to give old man Nolan Jones a good retirement tour at the age of 35. Even with that regression though, he's on pace to have his best season ever, so I don't know what's going on with Father Time. We drafted a ton of good pitchers in this video, and it's so sad satisfying to see the final trade-off, as look at all these dominant arms, even in the bullpen with a ton of good closer talent. This team, led by Grandpa Nolan Jones, has cracked 120 wins for the first time since season 5, I think, and for the second time in a row, Bobby Turley has won the MVP, so this guy must just be the greatest pitcher of all time. Make that 4 MVPs and 4 Cy Youngs in a row for Colorado, and on top of everything, Nolan Jones has won the Hank Aaron Award even over Spencer Torkelson. Here is one final look at the season 10 roster before we go into the playoffs for the last time of the video, and all I can say is this has been one of the most fun rebuilds I've ever done. We're facing the Arizona Diamondbacks one more time, and just as always, it's no competition, so we're moving on to the NLCS against the Nationals, and their best player would be like our 30th best, but they also have Sal Frelick. It would be so anticlimactic if we lost this game, and it's definitely not going to happen, which means it's all going to come down to the World Series against the Chicago White Sox, who actually look pretty impressive with Drew Jones and Jackson Holliday. This should be very interesting. Game 1 was relatively low scoring as Nolan Jones picked up an RBI and Kyle Carlberg tossed 8 scoreless frames, allowing only 3 hits. Game 2 is definitely a little bit scarier though, as the bases are loaded for Jackson Holliday, who's going to ground into what should be a double play, except he's able to beat out the throw. For as good as we are on offense, that was not an inspiring performance, as we only got 2 hits, but thankfully we were able to rebound with a win before the White Sox took another game. However, reigning MVP Bobby Turley got us a win, so we are 1 win away from three-peating as World Series champions again, but right on cue, as we're up 1 run in this game, our former player Ryan Jeffers went yard for a 3-run dinger. On the bright side, at least this will give us a chance to showcase our offense a little bit more, and that's a base hit from Ernesto Molina, who we drafted in season 3. That's gonna put 1 on base for Wyatt Langford, but unfortunately, this one stayed fair and ends up being an easy double play. So even with the God Squad, we're apparently not capable of having a normal World Series, but just like old times, we're relying on Nolan Jones for playoff heroics. A big play here would be the perfect way to bring this video full circle, as this one's hit hard into left center field, but unfortunately, the power is just not there anymore. I cannot believe we're going to Game 7 against Chicago, but we have a 1-run lead, so we need our pitching to hang on. This would be the perfect time to get some run support from our juggernaut offense, but I don't know if it's just because I'm not used to swinging with these guys, but I'm having a lot of trouble squaring anything up. Thankfully, our long reliever is gonna clutch up though, so we only need to survive 1 more inning, and of course my first hit of the game is the weakest one possible. I am begging for Wyatt Langford to finally score a run, as this one's hit well right to the left fielder. Hitting lefties used to be a strength for Nolan Jones, but he's regressed a little bit. Does this one have enough carry? And if he was 5 years younger, that would have been over the fence. We have made this a very tough job for our closer, who's getting absolutely shelled on this curveball, but thankfully it stays in the yard. Even though I'm disappointed in the lack of offense, I guess this is a fitting ending because our whole draft strategy was built on pitching, and we are just 1 strike away from sealing the World Series with an auto-drafted closer, as I'm going to try to give him a fastball inside that he waves at, and the Colorado Rockies have three-peated as World Series champions for the 2nd time in 8 seasons. What a team, what a dynasty, and what a video, as we took one of the worst teams in the National League and turned them into a historic powerhouse. This project took 2 months to film, so thank you so much for watching until the end, and if you did enjoy it, please drop a like and subscribe for all the work I put in, and click right here to see more of my content.